This meeting of the Preservation Board is now in order. I'm going to call a roll to establish who is here. Name is unfamiliar. Commissioner...
Saw me last month.
Oh, Commissioner Robinson. Commissioner Richardson. Commissioner Colleen. Here. Commissioner Bisenhainer.
Here.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Here.
Mr. Johnson. Commissioner Wright.
Here.
And I am present. Commissioners, did anybody read the minutes from the last meeting?
No.
And your motion making?
That was my group.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, hearing none. All in favor of making these minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Approved. Looking at the agenda, Commissioners, let's postpone the consideration of agenda item A. And the applicant is not present. Let's wait for agenda item B, 2413.10.
Everybody, Bob Bettis is back. Start out with the easy one. We'll have time for a long. Let me get there. Okay, 2413 South 10th Street. This is the prelim for a single-family new construction, Tenant Drive, over in Soulard. This piece of space between two houses is the location for the new house. It is on the west side of South 10th between Victor and Park. Contact, like, very bright day with the trees. You can't see much. On the streetscape looking north, the house will be situated right there. And then the other picture is across the street. It's a pretty intact block of houses. Everybody's at the rest of the street. Makes a two-story, three-story building. Again, on your right, all you can see is the left. That's the dark spot for the house. And again, this is a shot of the site detail. Here's a site plan showing that, again, it's going to be sited correctly, so right in line with the rest of the building from the street. The gap to the south is about 5-6 feet, and then the gap to the north is about 9 feet. There's a recessed L, the door in it, so there's a bit of a wider gap between the house and construction on the north side. This is the proposed elevation and the model example. There is some deviation. We're okay with those. The base windows are not arched. That is to kind of hide the fact that there'll be floor issues there you can't see, so we're fine with that. That's kind of the big change, deviation from the model example. Example. This is the north facade. Again, the brick return comes back roughly. This is the north side, with the wider side. In fact, 9 feet, which is the distance between the buildings plus the foot. The other side, again, that's 6 feet, and that's between the two houses. And there's the rear elevation. Streetscape, see it all lines up nicely. Good. And again, that's the site. In terms of the ordinance, everything complies out. The site, setback, massing, material usage. The one side, which does have a bit of a larger gap because of that side L, will be after the brick return, will be a red party board siding to kind of blend in with the streetscape, so that will kind of hopefully minimize the impact of having just that little bit of brick return on that one side. The owner has gone to Soulard, and they do support the application. Grab that letter. Of course, the commission, they had a few issues that they were addressed, so they're fine with it as well. So, given all that, and it all plays out nicely, recommend that the board grant preliminary approval of scope of construction. Installation of the final plan design details be approved by our office. Compliance with standards. Questions?
Commissioners, questions? Okay, the applicant Robinson is here. We have questions for him?
I'm here,
We don't have questions for you. Commissioner Survey, do I hear a motion? Yes, Mr. Chair.
I move that the board grant preliminary approval to proposed new construction with stipulations and final plans and design details be approved by the Cultural Resources Office finance standards.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner, let's hear agenda item C-1720, Carroll Street. Excellent. Commissioner, moving quickly. Let's hear agenda item B, 4167.
Project that will look somewhat familiar. It was brought as a preliminary review considered at the October 2014 meeting. And the Preservation Board at that time withheld preliminary approval of the project until the applicant addresses the exterior material, setback line, and single flow work. We pause here and say the owner and the applicant is Botanical Heights Homes LLC, and I am Betsy Bradley, the director. The Cultural Resource Office staff met with Brent Crittenden and Sarah about the design after that October meeting, and the fact that some changes would need to be made prior to bringing the project back to the Preservation Board for another consideration of the project. And a second design for the exterior was submitted and discussed in the final agenda before our fifth meeting. And then about on that day, on November 24th, we got yet another revision to the design, so I'll be showing you how the design has evolved over time. As a reminder, this is the construction site at 4167 Creek. And here's the site plan showing one wide lot here. And an aerial showing the building site in red. This is the context on the tree. You can see there's some great deal of consistency in the multifamily buildings across the street. A little bit more variety in the brick buildings inside the chamber construction. More specifically, the context to the west and to the east, shown here. And this is the site plan showing a revised placement of the house. Now, in October, we discussed the setbacks. And I urged that the building be set back slightly, as I thought it would be read with the street building to the left of it here on the slide, as opposed to being seen as more of a pair of buildings with a large lawn in between. And that setback was changed, and now the front of the facade lines up more consistently with the building. Again, adjacent to it and the others there as well. So this is a change here in the site plan. Here is the proposed design and portion of the block front. And this is not the final design. This is the design that I wrote the agenda. And this is the final proposal for the street facade. It's going to be a little confusing, but make sure you know what you're considering it again. We see some changes here. The brick extended across the lower portion of the wing that is the main block. If you remember, there's a recessed porch on the main block of the house. So the gray siding that peeks out there is the front of the house behind the porch that is recessed behind the main facade. And the upper level there is not big. beige, like I had thought. It is a light green color. And here are some paint samples to look at, and I've different from materials for those colors are in there. And just a thought, the comparison of what we were looking at in October and first November design, which is unchanged, and now we have less of the gray siding, more of the red brick. One on the right is more correction. The major change to this visible elevation, I spoke quite a bit about this because of the double wide side yards between this building and the one adjacent to it. This elevation would always be exposed and highly visible with a very light colored siding before. Now it is even dark gray and brick combination. Here is put into streetscape setting. You see there's a new look overhang introduced as a horizontal plane brace between the direction of the siding on this side. That's the change. So this is the evolution of the design. The first one in the upper left, moving down to consideration. West elevation and the rear elevation are unchanged, except that they would be the dark green color rather than the light color. Here's the figure. I commented about this before, and I will again. These are some photographs by the applicant that show that there's fairly strong consistency in the use of some shade of red or white brick for the entire facade of these houses. One major exception to that rule is the Hamburg house that they both house. And I would also point out that these are one color accents. Other colors are taller and introduced either as porch gable faces or the gable face and building, but the main portion of the house is close to one material and less colored by much, as is the pattern here. Also, there put these two projects in here. These are other buildings that have been built in this historic district, where we didn't focus so much on material and color. And you can see that they are not red brick or any shade of red brick. They are not perhaps as, I wouldn't categorize it as intrusive or stand out as being particularly incompatible, but this is the one set of historic district standards that really emphasizes use of color and materials. In fact, standards say that exterior colors unify the area. So we have experimented with some other colors here in the gray range and brown range, and I'm showing this to you for consideration. Then whether we want to stay in this direction and maybe do another course correction with that. There's another view of the proposed house in the streetscape. And back to this detail with the final design inserted. So as I noted, this ISO standards emphasize the use of materials and how they are used with a limited amount of use of siding and then to what how wood was used traditionally as that trim material. And I actually say the colors you'll find the area, so you need to consider whether the dark gray and the light green fits with this house. You see that? The one change that was undertaken during exposure and compliance with the standards of the setback, and the look form change that was asked changed in the motion expressed in October. I do have some others of support. One of them is from the homeowner, and the copy is for everyone. so you can read his case. It continues on the reverse. Don't forget to turn it over as you browse through it. I also have 2 letters of support. Start with the neighborhood association, referred to in the other letter. And the other, president of the neighborhood association writes that membership vote is to support 2 changes, variances to the standards for windows and the use of siding. And they also consider the setbacks, which the said we can change. So the person but it is qualified to variances. And relating to that, a letter from Alderman Rohde refers to the neighborhood association and their vote, and he says, like the Botanical Heights Neighborhood Association, I am also in support of the 2 exceptions as well as the rest of the society supports this guideline. So, to sort of summarize, we have a roof shape that goes aesthetically changed to the front change. The standards talk about the use of colors to unify the area, and I'm not sure that the color blocking on this house is red areas, gray areas, and green areas meet that standard, and stories clearly meet standards. And the use of material, again, there is somewhat a little bit more brick, but I'm mixed up on my directions. The wing is part gray and part red, probably doesn't meet the standards for the material, but the use of siding is what the neighborhood and the Alderman said that they would support the siding standards. So my recommendation is fairly consistent with what it was before. They find that the project has moved towards compliance with materials and standards and meets the intent for visual compatibility with the use of temporary design, or you can find that there's still ways that can be brought in closer compliance.
Commissioner, questions? Okay, let's hear the applicant.
Just really quickly from the outset, I'll say the limitations on the letter from the neighborhood association were not, I think they're being a little bit misinterpreted, and if it helps, we could precondition of permitting, have the neighborhood association revise their letter, because what we did is present the design to them, and they unanimously approved to support that. I think Nancy, as the president of the association, was trying to draw a distinction to help with where they were asking for it. Her exclusion of the roof line is more of a lack of information on their side and not a particular thing that was made a point of at the neighborhood association when I presented it and was there through the motion voting process. So if that's the point of consideration, we certainly could, as precondition of the permit, have the neighborhood association add clarification that, and then I assume Alderman Rohde would do the same. I did want to just start out, and I'm trying not to be too long, but Alderman Smith had asked about the history of the neighborhood a little bit and the plan in place for it. So I brought just a couple slides on background. This is an overall drawing of the master plan we are working to with the Garden District Commission. So all the bubbles here are works that we have done in the neighborhood. It's about 50 new and renovated homes. Will be about 110 apartments, about 60,000 square foot of school and commercial space, and various landscape improvements. Not the entire offer of new playground, and then Herman Undergrass has spearheaded those efforts. So there is a larger, about 8-block area that we've been working on redevelopment since 2008, and this map kind of clarifies some of the areas we've worked on. the part, we've had projects before the board, the board before, in particular, new homes on the 4200 block of Cree, which is the area with blue and yellow right in the middle of this line. And I'll show some elevation pictures of that in a second. Stepping back again, this is what the neighborhood largely looked like when we started. So large gaps, followed by intact abandoned structure primarily. So the first phase of residential development has a full block with, I think, 6 residents on it. So most have been demolished and abandoned and secured either by the LRA or the current commission when we started. And we set on a strategy of supplementing these with more contemporary infill. These slides show then the complete elevations of some of the streets. The upper left-hand image is the north side of the 4200 block of Cree, showing both the infill houses that were done previously in the past couple of years and some of the historic renovations completed alongside. The middle slide is the south side of that same street. The bottom slide is the block we're speaking about, which is in one of our latter phases. And then in the upper right are just a couple of images of a second phase, which carry the same style. I put those up there to show some of the things that were submitted in this house that had been approved before and built, particularly the size and type of fenestration on the buildings and partial use of siding on the elevation. We've got a fair number of projects completed and a lot of homeowners that had, bought into the precedent that in the neighborhood. Let's kind of close up with 3 of the homes and all the other homes on this side, except for the one on the far left, are historic renovations. So I just did that in a way because I think there was a lot of questioning last time about the plan that was in place and the precedent for the neighborhood. So this is the site we're working to. It's a 75-foot site parcel that's been created. It's part of a two-block or two-unit development at this point, kind of a mini portion of our area. We just finished renovating the 3-story buff brick home to the right on this slide, which is to the east. Like as we mentioned, we did push the house back. Site plan is a 4-foot side yard and max the elevation to the adjacent house. Immediate context images of brick. Just to clarify, I didn't bring a brick sample, but the intent would be to match the blend of the house to the east with a slightly darker, slightly darker mortar. So the house to the east has a light mortar coming to it. A dark gray mortar to attempt to match the same blend. So we did push that home back. We added more brick to the setback portion of the elevation, which is now about 10 feet from the front of the building, so it is set back fairly significantly. And we articulated the siding portion to differentiate the secondary elements of that composition by adding a foot-deep cantilever above the brick. The revised elevation. So, just to quickly summarize, I think are down to the roof line. We feel pretty strongly about that. I don't think the neighborhood is opposing it, and I think we'd be willing to work with them to formalize the approval, or at least state formally their approval of the roof line. And we do ask for your approval on the house, on the conditions of what is done before it, and also on the support of the neighborhood association.
Commissioner's question?
Three-story? 2.5, basically. The way that the plan works, it really wouldn't work with a 2-pitch roof. They couldn't be redesigned, but the plan that we've spent months working with the owner on has a 2-story staircase that rises up that center point that goes to the apex of the monopitch, and it slopes away from it. So a roof line that matched the adjacent structure, because that's supposed to preference, would not work with this.
That's your skeptical architect. What do you think?
No?
Good. Great, thank you. Thank you. Check the meeting report. Anything in the motion of it?
Yes, I move we approve this design as presented.
A second? Discussion.
Doug Melanie said.
Good. Second. Okay, what's your argument?
Let's look at the issues that, I think, well, the setback helps, I think it looks closer to belonging there, but to actually quantify the points that staff has. This plan is
I'm going to color this. Color class.
and what if we were to, if I were to change that to, work with staff on colors? Colors you could probably look at. Roof line, I can understand the plan has to work change. I don't find it, I get the point that it doesn't, tough to get around. It just works better. Got such a, that's kind of override the neighborhood rules. I didn't get a chance to read some of the association letters. Do they have specific issues with the roof?
I believe the color is
So, in a district where a lot of different forms have been allowed, I don't find this too much out of step with
association letter. Association letter.
I got the letter from the owner. A couple meetings back, we allowed corrugated metal and Subar Historic District in Appleton. So to me, this is a district where things are excellent.
That would be
The Gable? That's good.
It's a gay or a ball.
Big mirror.
Mr. Vincent, what do you think? Roof? Preliminary. Commercial, too little? Not enough.
Personally, I think that's fine.
Alderman, what do you think? Roof?
Well, you know how I always talk about these districts, it's in a district, and so there's your reason for granting variance. The reason that I heard is that Tech has done stuff like this similar or almost kind of nearby. I'm just wondering why they don't just modify to put it in a development plan or completely get rid of the historic district, because essentially that's what we're doing.
The 17th Ward Alderman is not shy about that.
Right. Which, you know, had this letter said no way on the roof, there's no way I would put that. So they're kind of loosey-goosey themselves, and we know rewriting those things is tax. Yeah, rewriting just haven't got something that should do.
Okay, color.
Makes it obvious it's non-compliant. Like shouting, non-compliant. Yeah, I love this. I mean, it looks terrific. It doesn't belong. There's an impression it's great stuff.
What color?
Well, I think I can agree with that.
I'd like to amend my motion to say colors for staff, working with staff, but, you second?
Color down here? You okay with the colors, or would you like to add them down?
I support, adaptation.
Is your second?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll actually get a motion that at the very least requires color. I'm not sure the color path, but it's not going to be proof. Materials? Materials down there? Or how inside?
No. No? Okay.
Actually, there's plenty of time to get a catch up. Okay, Commissioners, there is a motion on the floor.
Chair, can I make a comment about one of the, normally I don't interrupt you, but I think, Jim and I have had several conversations with friends here about the color of the house, and this is, to come to this one, the use of color is very different. And I think color is enough, certainly not, to see it as a privilege. I was, frankly, very surprised to find out the color I thought was beige on the previous design was mint green. And then it wasn't called out and we weren't shown that. And so it would be my preference.
Your preference of what? I couldn't hear the end.
Pardon?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end of your statement.
Well, their drawings are not annotated with color, so you never know what color you are approving. And I was never mentioned, and I didn't know until after the October 24th meeting that what I thought was a light tan color on the sides of the facade was mint green. And so therefore, the big thing is we do not agree on what the appropriate color for this house should be. And we talked about it several times, and so I'm just hesitant.
Okay, so you're saying that us sending it back to you saying, we'll approve it on a preliminary basis, work it out, is unlikely to yield an agreement?
Yeah, it's kind of a proposal, because we have a proposal on we use standards, so.
I have a slightly related question, that is, if I'm a homeowner and I come in, maybe 5 years from now, I'm a second or third homeowner, and I start painting that upper part, how do I know?
Normally we don't regulate the painting of wood, because usually it's small and, small trim color. This is a very big color, and that's why we don't allow unpainted bricks to be painted. So the one way that you can assure that the house will fit in is if there was more red brick on the side. And alternatively, the gray siding maybe could be red. But really, the only way to get an unchanged color is the color. And again, normally, trim colors come to those that are not especially big things, but when you have this big expensive siding, yes, it could be put up in one color and painted the next month.
So if this motion passes and he comes
to you, Mr. Griffin comes to you to work this out, you just don't think that we can come to some kind of agreement in your office?
Well, my position, which, I've explained a couple of times, is, this is one of you set the standard to address materials and color, and, these materials, all the photographs are based on that, it pretty much shows the material and the color. And it's not hard to discern the pattern in this district, and they have not proposed to use that pattern and use of color and use of material. And, we talk about it in kind of, what's compatible or what's in dialogue with something else. And, we have different ideas about what's visually compatible. And so therefore, we could take a stand, and we always work with the standards, take a stand, pretty much stand up to be ready for it. But, on the other hand, it's
Chairman?
Yes.
I asked Mr. Griffin to answer the question if that's appropriate.
Let's go ahead, because I do not see this motion passing. Maybe a question.
If this motion passes, can you work with Betsy and her staff on color, do you think, or you?
I mean, can we just say, is it just the parapet, or the gable?
It's all that gray on the exposed side elevation on the facade.
Yeah.
That, particularly on the facade, that, and again, that there's not three strong areas of different colors presented by more in any of the areas that I think the standards really convey both in intent and in the wording that by the district that you're basically using color of restoration kind of style, so from small. But the way it's designed, there's no forced detail for color. There's choices that were made in the design that preclude the use of the minor aspect of color. So, it's not, and again, I think rainwash is a lovely color as well, but I don't see it as a traditional use of exterior materials in particular. Tan or gray or some kind of neutral color is more out of there. We just see the use of materials and colors different. I think we know that. So having a third party to say, hey, this is not part of this.
If it was a matter of just turning the top portion to the gray to match what we just painted, 4159, which is the block color brick, we want to do that. The bronze or brown color, we're trying to push toward the compatible color in the range of the brick. Matching brick blends is a challenging thing to do outright. So we generally tend to go toward one tone in that family, rather than moderation or perceived image with what they are. So. You wanted to, complete the top being either the gray or the tan, if you want to say that.
I think it's, the gray and the brick because it's both create saturation. In particular, if you use gray marker and the brick, I think the gray, it would be rather the dark color of the green space. Just make visual pictures. So, yeah, changing the top to I just do it.
Again, my question, how do you teach your homeowners know that?
I want to say they don't and they could take that. I mean, we could agree this and then, and because it's Friday, you could take it. That's both. Great. I mean, that's I don't know that we have to be so very controlling on color, although I just think it's important that there's sort of like a certain amount of compatibility that needs to be there, so it's, see it at a glance, think, oh, this is pretty good, and go on. Everything is different. then you don't have that accelerated visual.
Okay, so it sounds like you could work with staff on this issue if you got your house up.
I believe it is.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, the motion on the floor is that we grant preliminary approval to direct the applicant to propose compliant colors. Correct? What, you understand what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So understand that would be a stipulation that once they reached the agreement, there would not be. It's silent on the roof, it's silent on materials. You have to approve them. Commissioner Fafferman, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Byzantine, yes or no?
No.
Commissioner Schmidt, yes or no?
No.
Commissioner Wright, yes or no?
Yes.
That is 4 yeses, 2 noes, the motion carries. Okay, we're going to do agenda item A.
And this is a preliminary review to consider demolition. And my recommendation that it come to you in this form is that I have a history on looking at this property and considering demolition. It's property in the Murphy Blair National Register Historic District in Ward 3. And the Starlight Missionary Baptist Church applied for a demolition permit for the alley building only on its property in 2009. I believe they acquired the property around 2008. Or 15 after they acquired the property. And at that time, the director of the Social Resources Office, instead of me describing myself as the current state sheriff, former Bradley,
Very correct.
denied that permit, and May 27, 2009 meeting, the Preservation Board upheld the director's denial of the permit, and the church is still dealing with this building on its property, and they wanted to come back for another discussion of demolition. So I have some photos from 2009 and some from 2010. Here is the alley building. You can see it's one of our flounder buildings with a single sloped roof. That's classic position back at the alley. And you'll notice in this photograph and some of the others, it seems the building is built in 3 units. Lines up to the brick. And the alley third and the middle third seem to be pretty good condition. That is the third that's on facing the front part of the property that has been trouble. Here is the property plan. You see there's a front building that the church uses, and then the alley building in the back. Another important thing to point out here is the site plan was quite different than it was in 2009. There's been several new buildings built. The Habitat residential building are on the block to the east of this property and also across the alley to the back. So we have a lot more footprints on this map than there was previously for the new house. Here's a comparison of the condition of the founder house, the street facing third of the building. You see in 2009 that threshold collapsed, and the end of a brick wall that still remained there. That brick wall has further collapsed by 2014, but the upper portion there is a brook, and the corner there has remained pretty stable in similar condition. The window, the raised base level has been blocked. Here's another comparison view. We have 2009 in the upper left and 2014 in the lower right. The relationship of these buildings, you might have noticed on the site plan, is clear here. Your alley house is just tucked in behind one corner of the front building on that property, so it could be separated into another lot. So, on the same lot. That might be a way to solve the problem. Here's the east wall, it appears now. You see it's that third there, that is control. And here's how that wall is. The cracks up there around the great wall. And back to this view. So we look at our demolition review criteria. There is no redevelopment plan adopted by ordinance for this area. As the two-story alley house is honored, it's in the National Register District contributing. It is a merit building, the ordinance definition. Its condition can vary quite a bit depending on which parts of the building that you're looking at. And we did very little change in how we did it. And some change, but it's confined damage in the street, in the building. So I think overall, that the building is still in the sound category. It's pretty much unchanged since 2009. It's a neighborhood effect and reuse potential. And I noticed that new construction in the immediate vicinity of the building. We think that more people around would have reduced the more eyes on the street and the alley, that we might have less of a problem with people breaking into the property, but that's there has been, in addition to the new construction, a rehabilitation project in the northern part of current Clare Historic District, or Old North St. Louis. It was directed after the agenda went out. That may have been 4 or 5, not too far from this building. And so, construction nearby. I think the outlook for this building is probably better now than it was in 2009 for reuse potential, but again, I have already pointed out, it's linked to the church building. Tax credits would be available. The church would not be able to use federal ones. Not in a position, I think, to undertake a rehabilitation project for at your place, when you arrive tonight, there's some of the materials that Starlight Missionary Baptist Church has provided about their economic situation, and they have rehabilitation. They have bank statements for 3 months, their operating budgets for 2 different years, and offers information about their financial resources and so forth. Another fund that is out there is a letter from Ward Alderman Bosley, and he has offered to request the property to be placed on the demolition list because it actually the church. And we consider urban design, of course, the distance from the street. Unfortunately, putting its best foot forward, that's the area of damage. But it does have visible now and it's lost. So I think that, we're dealing with a merit building and one that is sound, even though it has that damage on 1/3 of it. Located on the property, we cannot be separated from the rest of the property that is Starlight Missionary Baptist Church. It does not have an they offered evidence because they don't have the ability to repair or demolish. Third world, Alderman has made an effort to help. And this is where I think we might want to think again about how the city could help. A very wise person sitting at the table there suggested that the problem property program might be able to boarding up the property to keep people who shouldn't be inside the building from getting into the building. That's one of the things that shelter services and maybe into. And the other solution that you're going to provide is partial demolition, just the one purpose of and then have their ability in the future for someone to afford serve as on. So, considering everything, I do recommend that the board withhold approval of the demolition of the main portion of the building serves as a bringing to town, and request that partial demolition and applaud their solving their problem with fear of people getting into the problem fire. Things going on in there that shouldn't be, they have problems to solve, and I'm not sure that that's
Thank you. John?
Oh, wait a minute. I did forget, almost forgot something here. I do have one letter from the public, especially from Liz Kenoy from the Landmarks Association. And she supports the recommendation of the Corporation Board of Schools.
Who was it from the...
Liz Kenoy writing from the Landmarks Association point of view. And also, I have spoken with Sean Thomas in Old North St. Louis. He's given me verbal support for saying new to demolition, and also pointed out that there have been vicinity of the property as well as
I put a chair there. Your bag is letting it now, but your associate is welcome to it as well.
Stand up. Thank you anyway. My name is Marion Jones, and I'm speaking in behalf of Starlight Missionary Baptist Church. She is saying that the building is sound, which is not. If you open up that door, you can see inside where the floors have collapsed. And if you take off a portion of it, all of it would collapse. The foundation is not sound. Some of the columns in the bottom that would help support the floors, they're gone. Some people are still going into that building, and they're getting in through it's a hole on the side of the door that they're going down, because if they try to go up where the floors are, they would end up in the basement. It would cost just to put the building in a condition where you can look at it, but you cannot use it, almost $200,000. We can afford that type of project. So this is why we are asking for the demolition of that building.
You bought the building in 2009. You bought the building, your
Property in 2009. It was because we got credit to tear down the building for $6,000 in the project within it.
So when you bought it, essentially, as you were going through and calculating the sale price, you got $6,000 so that you could tear the building down?
Correct.
So your purpose all along was to tear it down first one?
Yeah, and I also checked with the city, and find out if it was, historical, and they told me no,
Wait, who told you that?
not the city hall. In the, I don't know which department that is, that has all the planning, for the section over there in that area. I can't think of the name because it's back in '09 when they, told us that it was not. We did not know that it was historical until we had paid the demolition company, which we provided the money, and they applied for the permit. And this is when we found out that we could not tear that building down. So that's money that we got lost.
Company kept the money?
Beg pardon?
The demolition company kept the money?
Yes, they did.
Questions?
I'm curious, again, how you were misled down there. Do you have any record of that in your file somewhere?
No, I don't.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Because I went from department to different departments because they had the address incorrect. And they had it listed under 3501 19th Street instead of 1907 Reed. 3015, okay, that's what they had listed under. And we went to purchase it, they had it listed under a different address. And we had problems like that, and I was asking questions. And they told me no, they were telling me no until they, and we couldn't purchase the building until they got the address clear straight.
Do you have any documentation about that $200,000 estimate for stabilizing the building?
I gave it to,
That hasn't made it.
Well, it's how we
Yeah, but I think you're past it. So it's in there. Okay, thank you.
it's almost $200,000. One is $150, and the other one is $180, and that's just the minimum.
Have you thought about selling the building?
We tried. It didn't work.
What did you list it for?
Church lady we talked to, and then also back in '09, Catherine, I think her name is Catherine. Shay was supposed to help us with that building and even swap it out. And she only gave us 2 listings and then dropped the ball. Then they referred us to on 19th Street, Old North Side, and they're saying that the separation of state and church, so they couldn't get no funding for it or anything. So we just stuck with the building.
Any other questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Any questions on this side? Really depends on the packet. Yes? And the motion. It may self-collect itself.
Sure. Move to the Preservation Board override
override the staff's decision on this and allow this building to be demolished based on financial hardship.
Second.
Discussion?
The finances look grim. I hate to see it go, but do it. It's actually dangerous. I'm working on a presidential park for that won't last. I know, and I completely respect our staff's ruling on this. I know this is salvageable. We've seen buildings like this saved before. But the finances, by the neighborhood economics were better.
Commissioners, the motion on the floor has been made and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Since we're going to take a 5-minute break before we do
And it's Betsy Bradley, Director of Cultural Resources Office, and the appeal of the denial of the demolition permit application for 1021 South Grand Boulevard. The owner and applicant is Bill Raymond of MPOT Investments LLC, not moved, in contrast to public opinion on XSCL. And we all know who we're dealing with here. As this is an appeal, I submit to the record certified copies of the St. Louis City Ordinance 64689 and 64832. Along agenda item, my presentation and the email letters received from council members. And let's take a little tour first. This is the Missouri Belting Company building at 1021. Here it is plan. And as you may this is the corner of Showtime Grand. The Peavey building still stands at this corner. The milk plant here has been demolished. The garage here has been demolished. This Missouri and the Peavey ice cream plant that stood here burned in a fire several years ago. So for many years, the Missouri Belting Company building was surrounded by the Peavey dairy. Here's an aerial view of that. You see the remains there of the ice cream plant after it had burned. Here is such the entrance the building has on Grand. You can also see the narrow sidewalk and situation there on Grand is working. And walls. Here is some damage west into the south wall. Those division condensation. There's the north wall. This building is a party wall situation and is north. All the building is at the north property. So as we move through the demolition criteria, and there is no redevelopment plan on site or everything property. On to architectural quality. Our building was built in 1911, designed by Otto. Missouri Belting Company, manufacturer of buildings. You know some facts about the building, and or maps, you get to see the storage portion. Has an office with a belting shop on the second floor, and the rear portion is the courier room. You wonder why I have office in the qualifying categories. No formal evaluation has been undertaken for eligibility for listing in the National Register. And as all such determinations are to be made within appropriate context, it's a little hard to do in a few weeks. We don't have any really context for considering a firm that provided industrial components to other industries. Every industrial company has its niche in the market or works in state business, so we know it's a long-term operation. So we don't really know how significant building was. I have used my knowledge of industrial architecture to think about it as a building design. And my conclusions are that we really don't have any certainty about architectural historic significance. It's a handsome industrial building with a brick facade, just as you would build on a Grand Avenue location. It's handsome and attractive, and like many industrial buildings, it's one of a kind, but without having unique specifics. So it would, we don't know how many industrial buildings that will housing design. So it is, a building that I believe in the category of maybe eligible for the National Register, depending on what research and statistical information. In terms of the ordinance of standing another 6 months, the building is down. Where we come into something a little bit unusual, I think, is in the neighborhood effect and reuse potential categories. Then situation again, it's surrounded by the community very in the past, now it's surrounded by land owned by St. Louis University. And we know there have been a plan considered for an ambulatory care center, and that did not go forward. Obviously, we sold this land and will eventually do something about this at this time. So, and also the parcel is kind of landlocked with being on the lot lines on the Grand Avenue side, on the north side, almost at the west side, and then you have half of the vacated street south side of the building. There's no off-street parking, there's no parking on Grand, and there are adjacent land. So redevelopment and reuse is somewhat of a good side situation for buildings on the lot is surrounded by good environment. Applicants told me that the south side of the building that was adjacent to the Peakly Ice Cream Factory was damaged at the time of the fire in March 2009. I found pictures of the fire online and looked fairly close to that looked at the other side of Caroline Street. Fire that I don't also believe that anything rise water and took the fire. There are other indications of this is and Miller has not submitted any additional reasons. So, urban design effect in the context of this area of Grand has changed significantly in the last 4 years that I've been in St. Louis. A lot of not only new buildings, that were on the street southwest of the property. The difference between this building and the stereotype are a couple of things you need to keep in mind because when you're looking at that and maybe eligible or maybe not. This building in the corner of Peakly building that is still there because no new construction has been forward, provide context for each other. And one would go, the other one would orphan, and so kind of depends, I guess, if your basket half full or half empty as you look at this part of things. Consider the effect that this building would have on that streetscape at the edge of what will be some proposed I had hit on the points I wanted to make about again the building may have rehab potential in the location around the side of its university property and in this situation. The standard work states that the demolition of marriage or qualifying structures shall not be approved except in unusual circumstances that shall be expressly noted. This might be that is unusual and may be noted as reason to approve demolition of that. And again, there's several criteria that are not applicable, such as goodness of construction proposed, not a comprehensive property situation, I have received 8 emails from the public, all of which were against approval of demolition. I received from Andrew Weil of the Landmark Association. And he made 3 main points in his email about the quality of the building.
You just tell us to go from and pass it down.
All right, this one I just want to make 2 points about the quality of the building, its reach potential, and the purpose of the preservation ordinance. And the others are visual. One note is from the Neighborhood Association, kind of wondering why they haven't been consulted, and being a technique, but apparently it's and so that's the extent of that has So my recommendation would be to uphold the denial based on it being possibly a merit building and on its condition, unless we determine that the consideration of the neighborhood effects and the reuse potential.
Questions, Commissioner? Okay, the appellant. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You are welcome to arrange your presentation in any order that you want to. Submit the documents that you think will build your record.
Well, I just wrote some history down of what has transpired over the years.
Okay, let's start the record by telling us your name.
My name is Bill Raymond.
Is your testimony going to be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, proceed.
Okay. We bought the building approximately 30 years ago for our business. We've always been current on our taxes and tried to keep the building in proper care. We sold our business in October of 2004. There was a fire at the Peverly Ice Cream Building in 2009. The company that bought our business moved out just prior to the fire. We had been trying to sell the building or lease the building for some time and never had any serious fires. SLU then tore down most of the building around us, making it impossible to access the dock area in the rear of the building that we had been sharing with them in prior years. This has made the property impossible to sell, as well as having minimal parking. In addition, SLU had proposed a development on their property that seemed to cover our property as well. We have not had any conversations with SLU about them purchasing our property in recent years. The property is not listed on the historical register of historical places, and with the former Peverly building having been torn down, it has been suggested to us that it is unlikely that it would be. The City Building Division sent a letter in May of 2014 that condemned the building and suggested that it be torn down or repaired. We did find a company that would tear it down as requested, and here we are today.
You suggested to your testimony that it would not be eligible for listing on the National Register.
Jerry.
Some conversation about
Jerry's going to cover that.
questions for the appellant?
So, you remember the points they made in the condemnation letter? Why did they say it?
The inspection revealed that the structure or premises are in a condition that endangers the health and lives or safety and welfare of persons or property, and further that they cannot be made reasonable safe without repairs or demolition and removal of the above referenced property on the unsightly and hazardous conditions listed on the following page.
So the following page lists the specifics. It looks fairly
Not
sound.
the following pages, it's just in this
You've been
respect.
inside this building recently? Have you? No.
I mean, years
Roof
ago.
collapsing?
It's an old building. Needs a lot of work, and with having it on the market and trying to sell it, lease it, money without any revenue coming in, and we don't control what's going on, around us. The parking is minimal, so it's not like, we bought it for a warehouse, so we had docks in the back of the building. Well, we can't get to the docks anymore, so it can't be used for, it's a warehouse, but it can't be used for a warehouse. The parking is minimal, so it's unlocked, no one's jumped, out to, say, we want your building. And, we continue to pay the taxes, and I didn't think, about, the options we had until I received the letter. So I pursued what I thought the letter was telling us to do.
Other questions?
I'm not clear, so why is the dock no longer available?
Well, in the back of the building,
Yes.
there was a street,
Yes.
and we shared the street with Peaberly. And we had a structure that, maybe a picture of that.
I think she called it a truncated street.
Right, this shows the back where the building is there, but I was gonna go to the site plan, conditions, street there.
Used to be a street.
So it's been vacated?
Well, when they tore, it's right there. I can't see what it's the back of it.
Okay.
Although Howard is,
Well, our trucks would come down a side street, and they would back into the area. Well, none of that exists anymore.
Because
It was demolished. It was torn out.
so has the street been, right? It must
well,
have been
when
vacated.
Mozart comes up and it's terminated at the garage.
It's been vacated.
It has been vacated.
It's been vacated up,
That was,
vacated there where it's about in the middle of the word Mozart. And the south was also vacated.
And the trucks we got back there were 52-foot trucks. And,
Did you oppose the vacation?
I can't hear you.
Did you oppose the vacation of the street?
No, because I didn't know. I wasn't aware that it wasn't going to be there. And, we weren't using the building. We were at the point trying to sell the building.
normally the party would come in and request it. If they don't request it, then could they come into the middle of it?
Well, and part of it we shared with people. We couldn't get our trucks back there without them being good. They were a good neighbor with us. So, part of it was, as long as they were there, we were sharing it, and, they had control, of it. If they didn't want us to share, then we would have been in trouble years ago. So they were a great neighbor.
Grant your request, what becomes of the site after the building? Do you have a development plan or?
Well, my brother's is a developer. If there was, something to put on the property where we had control of what's going around, it's a unique situation. And it's not like we can put something there if, with the section, I'm not sure what we would put there. Because
So would there just be, I don't mean to get too much in your business, but would the land just be sold to SLU or?
Yeah, I haven't talked to them, that they would call me and say, we're interested, or someone would call, but, they haven't, been ringing my phone.
Further questions for the Planning Commissioners? Anything else for the record, sir?
I don't.
Thank you. Mr. Altman? Will you keep those in the record, so introduce yourself, please?
My name is Jerry Altman. My address is 2207 Washington Avenue.
Jerry, is your testimony true?
It is.
Okay.
I support the demolition of the property and believe this situation raises some significant public policy issues, but let me cover three kind of lingering issues that were raised in questions. One is about whether the potential of this being accepted if nominated to the National Register. my advice to Mr. Rain was based on a very similar situation on the north side of Washington Avenue near 22nd Street, where there had been enough demolitions of pretty basic, pretty plain industrial buildings that by virtue of the demolitions, a remaining industrial building like this that has no particular historic or redeeming value architecturally was determined by the state and by the National Park Service to be not eligible for the register. So I think what's happened here with the demolition of the Peabody buildings, the smokestack, the ice cream portion to the south has so changed the character and the fabric of this area that all that's left is the building on the front, that this rather plain industrial building by itself would not make it as a single site nomination. The fabric's gone, the historic fabric, and so I don't think it would happen. I'm missing one, but the question about what would happen, what changed this property's future completely was when St. Louis University 2 years ago proposed a new ambulatory care facility on this corner, and in their proposed development plan, this was included in the site plan. So, the end point to that is if the building were torn down, unless SLU is willing to permit another developer to come forward and buy the Peabody building and buy property, which, at least according to the blog that was on Next STL, they have refused to do when people have come forward recently to them. There's no development potential except for St. Louis University. I don't know if that was the third, but the other part was with regard to the condition of the building. The building may or may not be rehabilitable. The building division believes, and they stood ready to approve the demolition permit. They continue to stand ready to approve the demolition permit. Whether the building can be rehabilitated gets into the economics of the situation here, and the economics are dire given what's happened. So with that, let me kind of pick up. Just repeating what I said, when St. Louis University came forward 2 years ago with its plan, it immediately thwarted any reuse potential for rehabilitation, for commercial reuse, or sale of the property to anyone else. There was a broker that Mr. Raymond and his brother had hired, and other than St. Louis University, the broker could find no one interested. The building has no systems inside anymore, so if it were to be renovated for commercial use, it's about 30,000 square feet. If it were to be renovated for commercial reuse, it's a multi-million-dollar undertaking. And so just to play the economics for you, that would mean let's call it a full-service lease at $15 a square foot for 10 years. No commercial tenant, knowing that St. Louis University has a plan for this corner, is going to come forward and lease that space without any kind of a guarantee that their lease is going to be able to last through 10 years, even if they would do 10 years, which industrial tenants rarely do. If you shortened it to a 5-year lease, the lease rate would be about $30 a square foot. That's impractical in St. Louis terms. So the economics, in addition to the fact that there's no parking for the building, as Mr. Raymond indicated in the back, because the vacated street's been torn up, the cost to replace the street and make it available for trucks in the back, number one, would need the approval of St. Louis University, which seems unlikely to be granted, but the cost to put a new street back there and pave that and make it available for trucks would be prohibited. So that announcement it completely changed the economics. And in this situation, I happen to agree with that blog on NextSTL that St. Louis University is simply waiting while the property's value diminishes. The assessor happens to agree that the property's value has diminished in the last 2 years, and that will continue to happen. And that's kind of a sad condition for these two owners who've been pretty steadfast, paid their taxes, kept the building up for a long time, to be placed in where there's no avenue for them. They can't rehabilitate the building for commercial use. They can't sell the building to anybody other than St. Louis University, and yet St. Louis University has no intention of coming forward and buying the building until the value diminishes further. And so, if it's demolished, then at least there's a non-threatening and safe condition until such time as St. Louis University either comes forward to purchase it or agrees to sell all of that corner to somebody who will redevelop it, which they've been unwilling to do. But in the midst of them not doing that, if demolition permit is denied, then this is really moving toward an inverse condemnation setting, where the owners, any avenue for these owners to take has been thwarted. And they have there's no recourse for them, there's nothing, they can't rehabilitate it, they can't sell it, there's no broker who will take this on, there's no commercial tenant who will come forward. So it's really created a difficult, as I say, public policy issue, and it's placed these owners in a difficult position. So for those reasons, I support its demolition.
I'm sorry, what's your relation to the owner?
I'm a friend of I live and work here in St. Louis, and been involved in some historic renovation projects.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, so, you said they would be unable to sell it to anyone but St. Louis U. They actually could if a buyer stepped forward, but you're saying St. Louis U, is that correct?
I did say that because it's my belief that no buyer would come forward and purchase it knowing that St. Louis University owns the surrounding property and could, again, a different new buyer than St. Louis University would have no other option or direction other than putting in several $1 million to renovate the building and not get it paid back.
Understood, okay. Just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was confused by, SLU doesn't own the building.
They do not.
And SLU has a development plan on, are you saying they have a development plan on all the property, including this property?
Well, no. I don't know legally or technically that term development plan. I shouldn't say that. I know it legally. I don't know it technically. In this situation, my only point, Commissioner, was when they came forward to present their plan for a new ambulatory care center, it included this property. And so that plan, which as far as I know is still out there and existent, any developer, any broker, any commercial prospect is aware of that and knows that this is in that footprint.
I believe by development plan identification, you've been the lying PowerPoint presented to the commission, which we did not believe.
So, you could look at this a couple different ways. You have a property that presumably is the missing piece for that owner to try to buy, which is
Pretty high, because they don't have a lot of other options if they want to try to get that whole corner under their control. The concern I have is that the owner somehow allowed that back area to be vacated, so now they're coming and saying, well, we can't do this property because we allowed what was there and available to us as a means of access to the lease, because they had the choice in vacation.
So that's a concern.
His testimony was that he was not so informed, so he might have to make a recourse.
Absolutely.
Unless his testimony was mistaken.
Right.
That was the third point that I forgot. So let me, without knowing any more information than you know, let me comment on that. Let's assume for this discussion that multiple years ago with the Peabody Company, obviously a good neighbor, strong presence on that corner, came to them and said, we want to vacate this area that we'll both use, this street that we'll both use, you for your dock and us for our dock and other facilities, and that got approved. Now the circumstances have changed. That owner's gone, long gone. You have a new owner who came forward, got permission to do some demolition, so that vacated street is now torn up. And so what you say is right, technically, but the practical implications of what has occurred are that you have a totally torn up vacated street that can't support trucks, therefore it renders the dock useless. And so the only way to make the dock useful would be to rebuild that street. That would require now, not the approval of Peabody, it would require the approval of SLU.
What happens if the debris that was surrounding the building on either side as a result of the it was a result of the demolition of the tower that's still there, it's not there anymore.
It's rubble, it's just rubble and it's still there.
Question from the desk?
Is this the street to the south, Elizabeth? No, it's vacated. That's vacated.
She doesn't have a question? Question? Have we missed anything? Okay, thank you. Yeah. She doesn't seem to give a motion.
Yes, I'd like to move forward and call for the record.
For a second?
When an approval of demolition was granted to, I recall, the corner Peabody Dairy Building, it was only allowed based on permits being issued for construction. And did not get torn down, and I would feel we would be remiss in allowing demolition of this building and creating another vacant lot without plan.
Further discussion? Great. There is a motion on the floor to uphold the director's denial. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Director's denial is upheld. Director, did you introduce the ordinance? Okay. Thank you. That completes our business on the subject. Calling agenda item F.
This is, is a detail of what was on the building when it first been confirmed. However, this is not the photo we had. It was a copy, and it wasn't very clear whether there was 50% slate or not. So it was routed to our office. And I received it. I talked to Betsy about it because there was some question about whether there was 50%. Because if there's 50% slate on advances, the user has to go back to synthetic slate for slate. So, and what had been proposed was composition. So when I went out to look at the building, all the slate had been removed, all the rest of the building. So at that point, as well as back to what you can determine whether I contacted the owner and told them that it has to be slate of similar shape. Basically, children. Please call back later and ask about synthetic slate. That's a possibility, but it would need to be the same shape, and we would need to review it before installed. I didn't hear back from her after that point, and we eventually went out a photo of it was getting close to the date where we had to make a decision. Went out a photo and found that rectangular synthetic slate had been installed. At that point, the application was denied. The owner decision. We did speak to the owner later at a meeting in our office and told him that the Childa Point synthetic slate might be an option. There is a Childa Point synthetic slate that they make. It is somewhat wider than what's up there, but it would still give more of a, it would replicate the shape of the slate much better than currently there. I would change the shape of slate. The shape of shingles is a character-defining element of the building. There's a significant alteration of the building. Those points that are available and would have been approved. We are asking the full director to deny the application.
Stated that initially went out, the previous meeting had been removed, and that was conversation, and it came back and did an installation after that.
For the record?
I'm actually looking.
If you wait 5 seconds, Barb will suggest several more things that she'll ask you after you've introduced.
Ready? I'm good with that.
Mr. Colford, thank you for your patience. Please do not hurt yourself coming to testify.
Sorry about that.
Okay, we're gonna try to build a record for your,
Okay.
tell us your name,
Rich Bolter,
your address,
45, that address,
where we can find you again.
45 President Drive, in Fallon, Missouri.
Okay, and is your testimony gonna be the truth?
It will be.
Okay. What is the nature of your appeal?
I guess, if it wasn't everybody else, my issue is fairly simple. It's a very minor thing to do. If I misunderstood her and explained it to me that not only the composite shingle was okay, but the profile had to be, approved, that's fine. I've got maybe another week of work to do on this house. When we met the last time, all I asked was, you're approving the composite shingle, it's the profile that you're denying. All I ask is, they've got the samples in their office, just, this is the one that is acceptable, this is the profile, and I'll get it. But there seemed to be confusion on just exactly what was acceptable and what wasn't, where to get it. And so I'm not here to fight or argue or he said, she said, I just would like to get it home.
Next question.
So you're willing to change out?
I would prefer, it's a good job. Is it what came off of there with the clip corners? No, it's not. I admit that. I did not know that was part of the approval process, but that's neither here nor there. That's my ignorance. It's just the fact that what you see right there is what needs to be corrected, and other than the aggravation of having to do it, being fairly expensive, but I prefer not to. But if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do.
Question?
I have a comment on it. This is just north of the old Lem Stables there.
True.
And it's a fantastic, I've been looking at this project and wondering if it might be finished with it, so.
Open house, December 14th.
Thank you.
Move on. Any questions down there? Melanie?
I would like to move that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial and the removal does not comply with the Denton Park District standards.
Is there a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. Is there discussion? Sounds like a misunderstanding, they can get that. Building, gorgeous project.
It is a great project.
The motion on the floor is that all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
If you like to ask a question.
Well, it will not affect the outcome, but you're welcome to ask a question.
Oh, okay, well, I was wondering if I could take the shingles down and clip corners manually. It's $800 for the shingles. Huh?
How wide are they?
I don't remember. What?
Commissioners, all this discussion is used, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Hearing no objection, we stand adjourned. Commissioners, thank you.